Good morning. Wanted to share with you a little bit today about the article that you're reading from Carl Rogers and give you a bit of my perspective on Rogers. You're watching a tape this week in which Rogers interviews a lady by the name of Gloria. In this series, and you'll see some of the other interviews as well, three master therapists interview the same client. Her name is Gloria, and Carl Rogers is one of those people that interviewed her. I remember when I was in graduate school, I watched this tape as well. You'll notice it's an old tape. And I remember walking away from listening to Rogers interview Gloria, and it just made me nervous. It was just disconcerting to me in the way that he was, because I'm a very active and kind of very directive therapist. And so for him to just kind of reflect and kind of rephrase with her just seemed to be very difficult for me to follow. And I know that I just had some difficulty with conceptualizing Rogers. But now that I've got a few more years in counseling, I understand that while some of Rogers' ideas about client-focused or person-centered therapy may not be my mainstay. His ideas about connecting with a person, particularly around empathy, are integral to the counseling relationship, and that is a big part of our discussion this week. And so that's why I gave you his article. In it, I noted even in the PowerPoint presentation that even though he identifies 6 necessary and sufficient conditions for the counseling relationship, over time, those 6 have kind of been boiled down into 3. And the 3 are empathy, unconditional positive regard, and genuineness, or as I like to call it sometimes, congruence. When clients come in, their lives are oftentimes marked by anything but genuineness. They're very incongruent. Um, their thoughts and their feelings and their actions just don't fit together. During the lecture or the PowerPoint pieces of this, I noted that one of the things you need to pay attention to with clients is, do their emotions and their thoughts and their actions go together? When a person is talking to you, are they telling you that they're okay, but everything about their facial expression tells you they're not okay? Pay attention to those things, and don't be afraid to ask about that, or at least to point out the inconsistencies when you notice them. But I've learned that really connecting with people and considering how I introduce myself to people, how I approach them, really is integral to the counseling relationship. I was kind of taught in some ways that that wasn't all that important when I did some of my graduate studies, that being a competent, capable clinician was enough, and that was necessary and sufficient for good counseling or a good outcome. I don't believe that anymore. I truly believe that this relationship is predicated on us being the people that we need to be with our clients. And if we have that, then we're much more likely to have a successful relationship and outcome in counseling. So I've shifted my thinking a little bit over these years. But he does talk about 3 things. He talks about empathy. And my definition that I've given you of empathy is basically being able to put myself in the other person's shoes and to see the world from their perspective. No matter how odd or crazy it may seem to me, it'll go a long way to helping me understand the client and being able to help them if I can at least see the world from their perspective. Now, one of the things I don't want to do is I don't want to get so absorbed in the client's perspective that I lose my own or I compromise on my own. I am not willing to do that. nor do I think any counselor should do that. That is one of the difficult things about learning to be a counselor, is to be in kind of the muck and mire with the client, to meet them where they are and to understand them where they are and not be affected by the muck and the mire. I mentioned the toxicity of this type of profession, and I think that is a big piece of what it means for this to be a toxic profession. We are working with people when life is not good for them. And so we are in toxic environments and toxic situations with them. And if we aren't careful, they will affect us. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about that later on. But, getting to know them, to understand their life and their perspective, why they think the way they do. I've always told a lot of people around me, I've done this for so long now, I understand that no matter how crazy or odd or weird we may think something is in the world that happens around us, when you actually talk to someone and hear their perspective or get them to share with you where they're coming from, what has happened to them, or how it has affected how they see the world, it makes sense. We still may not like it and we still may not agree with it, but it'll make sense. And that's what I think empathy is at least being able to understand how whatever a person is doing makes sense to them, whether it does to us or not. It also means that we support and we encourage the client and we don't judge them. That's the unconditional positive regard. We may look at them and think, this is crazy, this is odd, whatever it may be that it brings out in us. But we keep that in mind where we still support them and we're encouraging to them and we let them talk about their stuff, maybe no matter how odd and crazy it may be. I think that's what it means to show that kind of unconditional positive regard to a client. Also, it means for us to be congruent. When our clients come in and they're not congruent, they're disingenuous, they're confused, one of the things that we need to be is congruent. Meaning we need to kind of, as the Bible says, let our yes be yes and our no be no. We need to model for them what it means to be able to express ourselves, to share our thoughts and our feelings, to help them to learn to be in touch with them and to identify where there may be incongruent, to help them understand how their perceptions of the world might be contributing to their difficulties. That's the counseling process, as you'll kind of see. But it means for us to bring to the counseling relationship a congruent way about us and who we are, and that we are consistent. Doesn't mean that counselors can't be upset, doesn't mean that counselors can't have a bad day. But it also means, kind of being able to express to them and say, look, I have bad days myself, or I have difficulties myself, and sometimes I'm not always on the top of my game. And so I understand, and I can get that. But I also know that even in that, I want to make right decisions, good decisions. And I want to be kind of transparent in who I am and congruent. If I'm down, I'm down, and it's okay. If I'm fulfilled and happy and joyous, then that's okay. But I'm not going to say I like you if I don't. I'm not going to like you one day and not like you the next because of your behavior. So I'm going to be as congruent as possible. So with that in mind, I want you to just kind of let that rumble around a little bit and digest that a bit as you think about those necessary and sufficient conditions in counseling. What you think about them, how that would play out for you, how each of us interacts with our clients is going to be different. It's going to be based on who we are and how we are as people. But think about how you could see it playing out in your life where you are being the counselor and what it means to have that empathic understanding and to seek that kind of empathic path with your client, to allow them to talk. I've given you an exercise to just sit down with someone and let them talk to you and tell you about a situation or set of circumstances in their life, and just listen to them explain it. Don't comment back. Don't ask for clarity. Just listen and let them talk. And then once they're through talking, just give them a paraphrase of what you've heard and attempt to just kind of point out your observations and see how accurate you are. Ask the client then, how close did I get? See how well you did. I think the more you do that and the more people will start telling you, hey, that's it. That's what I'm saying. Then you'll know that you're being empathic, that you're hearing the client's story and you're seeing it from their perspective. Try it and see how you do. Let us know what you think. Take care and have a great day.